Hi, everyone. Welcome to this bonus episode of Time We Discuss. I want to give everyone a sneak peek as to what is coming with season two. But before we do that, let's first wrap up season one. Now, actually, season one has one more episode, which will drop on December 29th, and season two starts right up on January 1st. Now, before we look at season two and what it has to offer, let's look and wrap up season one. Season one had 87 episodes with some truly unique professionals. I had a virtual assistant, an inventor, water expert, clown, ghost hunter, hypnotist, and a ton more. Looking back over the course of the year, did you have a favorite? If so, drop one in the comment jar because I'd love to hear about your favorites. Now, we also had some repeats with some different perspectives, which was really cool. At last count, I had 17 coaches, I had 8 authors, and I had 5 social media and marketing experts. Also, I want to remind everyone I do have playlists that have episodes that are grouped together, so be sure to check those out. Now, before we talk about next season, I thought it'd be fun to share some of my favorite moments from the past year. Let's start with our shorts. I had problems with shorts right from the get-go. I thought it'd be super easy to do. It probably is, but I just wasn't getting the hang of it. But problems right from the get-go. They weren't formatted correctly. They weren't showing up in the right place, this, that, and the other. But once I got it going, I did have a few that were my favorite. So for starters, first one that comes to mind was the equity analyst. I was doing the Missed It Monday for that one. I really, really enjoyed what I did. I had like this head exploding kind of thing, which is still on the channel. So if you want to check it out, feel free to check it out. I also enjoyed the one I did for Shane Ledyard. Again, his Missed It Monday short. And I talk about, riding horses, teaching people about horses, books about horses, everything horses. And at the very end of the short, I end up kind of like looking down to stop the recording. And you can see I'm laughing. And I just thought it was very me. So I decided to keep that in. So I really enjoyed that one. The other one that I really enjoyed is the Lego logo, which is still on the channel as well. So the Lego logo, which I'm not going to edit this. Okay, the Lego logo, which I still have, and I still have yet to find a place for it. One of these days I will. But I enjoyed that. Again, not editing that. I really enjoyed making that short, and even making the logo was really, really fun. One of the other favorite moments I had was speaking with Alex Beaumont. She was a folklore and fantasy author. And at the one point, I talked to her about creativity or how to get started or something along those lines. And she came back with this line. She says, take things that you love and put them in a blender. And then she catches what she said, and she's like, "Oh, a metaphorical blender," but it made for a really, really entertaining moment. So that was with Alex Beaumont, the folklore fantasy author. Another fun moment was when I was speaking with Joel McKay, I think it was, and he was the funder. And during the course of our conversation, I'm relaying a story about which happened with me and my wife. And I'm talking about my discovery of how Maine was not a peninsula. And it just made for a really, really funny moment. So definitely check that out too. That was Funder. That was Joel. Now, some other things that I got a lot of enjoyment out are some never before scenes. So you never got to see those, but some of the things that I edited out, I had this introduction with in the oyster farming episode. And I remember asking, typically it's like, well, what's a day like, a typical day like for you as an oyster farmer? And my guest talks about, in about 30 seconds, she runs down the whole thing. And I can't remember if I said something or if it was the expression on my face, but I remember she came back with something that was very similar, like, "Oh well, you really have no idea what this is like. Okay, let me start again." And then she launches into a typical day, and that ended up being the real introduction. But it was really it was really funny watching her reaction to my reaction. So that was one thing you didn't get to see. I also talked when I was speaking with John during the dream therapist episode. I talked about we talked about some shadow people moments. So that was a really, really cool story. But it did not make it in the actual episode because I didn't think it really had a place there. I also had some other general awkward moments. There are many times I go to ask the question and I forget it. So I end up editing that out. Although sometimes I do keep them, like when I was speaking with Erica Silverman. She was the estate attorney and author. And I go to ask the question, I forget it. And then I say, oh, wait, I got it. I go to ask it again, and I forgot it a second time. I ended up leaving it in the video, which I thought was really fun. So sometimes I'll do that. Other awkward moments, I get the names wrong. I did that at least once. I called someone by the wrong name, which was fun. I also pronounced names poorly. I've done that several times as well. So those are some never before scenes. Should I keep those? Are those entertaining, or they just make things a little like annoying or irritating, or both, or none? So if you think I should keep them, leave a comment in the takeout jar below, and I'll go ahead and I'll consider keeping those. Now, season one also had some big moments for me. I remember speaking with voiceover Pam. She was the first stranger that I interviewed, the first person that I did not know in real life. That was really, really cool. I met her on LinkedIn. A mutual friend or mutual colleague, I guess, had posted something about using Pam's voiceover services. And I thought, voiceover artist, that would be really cool. I should reach out to her and see what happens. And Pam was kind enough to join me on the show. So that was really, really cool. A big moment for me. Aubrey Andrus was another big moment. For me, it was an actual published author with like she had many books under her name. A really really cool moment. So I got to speak to her, but also not only just speaking to her and understanding everything that she had done, but she also connected me with Devin Lucas, who was the board game writer, and then Devin Lucas connected me with Meredith Dietz, who was the comedian in New York City. So it was really really cool how I reached out to Aubrey and she agreed to be on the show. And then from there was a domino effect. I got two more people. So that was really, really cool. Another big moment was when I spoke with Dr. Jo Lukens. She was the sports psychologist episode, and she is in Australia. So I got to speak with someone on literally the other side of the world. So, so cool. I remember I was speaking, it was the evening here and it was the morning there, the next day, obviously. So that was really, really cool. It was a big moment for me. Now, aside from big moments, there are some big stories that came out on the show too. When I spoke with Drew Donaldson with Grohaus, I hope I'm saying that right. I'm not editing that, but he talked about this when his child was born. He has a media agency, and when his child was born, he said to his client, said, "Listen, I'm taking some time to be with my family, but I'll be back very soon." That kind of thing, and I'm paraphrasing. And a lot of his clients came back and they said, "Hey, that's awesome! Congratulations! Spend time with your family. Don't worry about us. We'll work with someone else." And they left to work with another agency. And he talked about how his company went from being very black to being in the red virtually overnight, and it's really cool to hear how his company bounced back from that moment and how he ended up being even more profitable within the next year. Really, really cool story. Ashley Mason was another amazing story. She talked about creating a blog in high school and then proceeds to create a social media marketing agency while she's in college. And during this time, her family is battling major health issues, and she ends up being a caretaker and trying to balance college and this business. Really, really cool story. Now, spoiler alert, there's actually a very similar story for a person that's appearing in season two. But Ashley's story is amazing. I've spoken about that several times with different episodes. I referenced that several times in social media. Really, really cool story. So she's a social media marketing agency episode. You should check her out if you haven't already. Another big story was built from story builders. This very cool moment. You can say it's cool because it's after the fact. I'm sure it's very stressful at the moment. But he's talking about how I think he worked at a school in some capacity. I think he was an administrator, if I remember correctly. And in this particular story, he's talking about how he did not want to do it anymore, that his passion wasn't there anymore. And I think his passion was in writing, if I remember correctly. And he's talking to his wife about what he wants to do. And they decide that he was going to leave his job to focus on his writing. And the day he puts in, I think they either put in his leave or it was his last day or something like that. His wife loses her job that same day, and they end up going a year with no income. And that story was just amazing, amazing, so inspiring. He talks about how they talked to their kids, what they were going to do the next year, and how things were going to unfold. And he talks about how Christmas was that year and how they made things work for Christmas, and how his kids still talk about the stories involving Christmas of that year. Such an amazing story. So that was built from Story Builders. You should check out his episode if you haven't done that already. And there's so many more great stories from season one, and there are great stories coming up in season two. So season two, let's talk about that. Season two, I have 30 people already recorded. That's going to take us up until April 13th, which is a Sunday. In season one, I had 17 coaches. I talked about that. Season one, 17 coaches. Season two, 0 coaches. I love talking with my coaches. They offer amazing perspectives, great opportunities for people to do all kinds of different things. But remember, this show is all about exploring different careers, discovering different careers, finding out what it's really like to work at a different job. And when it comes to the coaches, I think we've explored that enough that I need to take a break from that for now. So I have no intentions of covering more coaches in season 2. If you'd like to learn more about coaches, check out the coaches playlist. They're all there. So you can just hop from one to the next to the next. They offer some really great stories, great advice, very interesting jobs. But for now, there are no more slated for season 2. Now, I do have some authors recorded already for season 2, and I had a fair amount of authors in season 1. However, in season 2, I'm prioritizing good stories and what they do or what they did besides writing. So, for instance, I spoke with this one author, and he talked about how he got arrested for putting books in people's mailboxes because he's trying to promote his book. Really, really good story. And his entire episode is just an amazing story. So it gives people other insights on what it's like to be an author. But again, I want to prioritize people that have great stories, or they also do other things, not just an author. Because I think we've had a fair amount of those. And while I do appreciate the perspective, again, this podcast and channel is all about discovery of different careers. It's all about exploring different careers, and different is the key. So I really want to prioritize that next year. Let's talk about the publishing schedule. When I first started doing this, once a week, the episodes were dropping. And then it became about 6 a month. And then as I got more people interested in being on the show, I changed it to twice a week. And it's been awesome. I had a huge influx. We have a large quantity of people coming in, like that 87 episodes. But now I need to rethink things, and I want to shift from quantity, and I want to go back to what I originally wanted to do. And that's finding obscure people that do obscure jobs. So starting on April 13th, that's Sunday, from that point on, I'm going back to releasing episodes just on Sunday. I want to focus on getting more obscure jobs. I want to focus more on marketing efforts. I think that's more important than trying to bring in more people. It's hard to focus on getting different people when I'm so focused on pushing out the content that I've already recorded and editing the content I've already recorded. So going forward, starting on April 13th, that's Sunday, from that point forward, it's going to be once a week. Now, I already have some great guests coming up in 2025. I have a mosaic artist. I have a registered patent agent. I'm going to pause right there for a second. Registered patent agent, it doesn't sound that interesting or glorious, but the conversation was a good one. So definitely check that out when that drops. So I have a mosaic artist, a registered patent agent. I have a competitive gamer. I have a Grammy-nominated musician. I have some really, really great people coming up in early 2025. And as we go deeper into the year, I'm only going to get even more incredible people. Now, I do have some questions for you. Should I do a deeper dive with anyone? When I start doing these interviews, I limit myself to 40 minutes. I edit it down, and it might only be 20, 30 minutes, sometimes a little shorter. But I'm very conscientious of the time that I spend with my people. Do I need to go deeper? Do we need more information from different people? If so, I can easily bring people back and do a deeper dive. Should I focus on more of a particular industry? Should I focus more on education? Should I focus on the sciences? Should I focus on the entertainment industry? What should I do? Should I focus more on entrepreneurs, or should I focus less on entrepreneurs? If you could talk to anyone about the job, what would that job be? Now, I want you to think about all of these questions. I want you to leave answers to any or all of them in the comment bowl below. It's been an exciting year. I want everyone to stay safe this holiday season. Although, if you happen to fly to Miami and you get into some legal trouble, I have a guy that will answer the phone at all hours of the night. That being said, if there's a person they want me to cover, let me know in the comments and I'll find that person for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.